Good morning, Giri Maharaj.
Good morning.
Looks good. You got all your books in from India, huh? That must have been a chore, setting that up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into today's topic. Today we're discussing maybe the role of, or just women in general in Krishna consciousness. And the reason we're doing this is several-fold. One is that in June 4th, I believe it was June 4th, in the Guardian newspaper, that's published in England or all of Europe?
England, yeah.
Published in England, in the UK, there was an article. You want to read us, what is the title of that article?
Okay, the title of the article is, "It's Latent Misogyny, Hare Krishna's Divided Over Whether to Allow Female Gurus."
All right, so the twofold is, one is this article by its title is inferring that the Hare Krishna movement or fractions thereof are misogynistic. And people are so triggered these days, they'll take that to just, the Hare Krishnas, they're misogynistic, It's a cult. It's a women-hating cult, and it just goes downhill.
Right.
What do you call it? Hang on a second. Got to turn this thing off here. The public is quick to jump on these things and make much more out of it than it is. So this article interviews devotees not in England, right? But
no, in Gainesville, Florida.
In Gainesville, Florida, but it's published in a newspaper in England. So I don't know how that really works out. It's more than likely, I would speculate, by a freelance author, a freelancer, rather than the Guardian sends somebody all the way over to Gainesville when they could just interview people right there in England who have much bigger temples and much bigger participation than Gainesville. I mean, Gainesville is barely on the map other than it's a big community of devotees. It's not a huge preaching center of sorts that you would think. All right, so anyway, this article then by its title suggests that the Hare Krishna movement, that Krishna consciousness is a misogynistic way of vision of the world. So first we want to address that with a big fat no, it is not. Mm-hmm. It is not a misogynistic culture, neither now or has it ever been. In fact, I often point out, because you run into this a lot while preaching forever, whether it's, I can remember at universities in the United States 30 and 40 years ago where people were saying, you think that women are, and they would say something negative. So maybe the Hare Krishna is, what?
You treat your women like slaves.
You treat your women like slaves. Yeah, well, that may be true in some cases. I mean, there have been abuses of children. There have been abuses of women. There have been abuses of men also, which don't get spoken that much about because men are usually expected to fare for themselves.
Right.
But why such an outrage when there's abuses of women and children, but not as equal an outrage when there's an abuse of a man? Mm-hmm. Because it's inherent in the human experience that women and children are to be protected.
Right.
Why is it if you watch the movie Titanic, it's women and children into the boats first, and the men, well, you get to die. But the women get, nowadays if a ship is sinking, it's like, sorry, madam, or whatever you call yourself. Every man, woman for themselves, So, right. But it's been that way in every culture in the world, whether it was the Celts, where it was the Greeks, the Indians, the Chinese. Women were afforded a luxury of not having to go to war and get your arm chopped off in a sword battle on the battlefield or stuck in the gut with a spear, more than not. You see. Mm-hmm. All right, but the point is, the Krishna consciousness is not misogynistic, and we are pretty much the only spiritual movement from the ancient world that has scripture spoken by women.
Yep.
Now, there are two very outstanding ones. One is the prayers of Queen Kunti from, was that second canto?
First canto.
From first canto, prayers of Queen Kunti. Her words have been immortalized in Srimad Bhagavatam and excerpted in the modern Hare Krishna movement and published as a book called Prayers of Queen Kunti.
And those are the only prayers that Srila Prabhupada sang from the whole of the Bhagavatam.
Yes. Then in 10th canto, you have the advice given by Rukmini, which is pretty much a heads up for men and a heads up for women, when Rukmini advises all women in the world, well, what's the real deal on the men?
Right.
And then ultimately, even though they are your protector in this physical sense, ultimately only Lord Krishna is your protector.
Right.
Everyone is subservient to Krishna, and everyone is under the threat of death, and only Krishna can save you. Only Mukunda is the deliverer from the jaws of death, not any hairy-chested man or what have you, big muscle guy in this world. From Bhima down to the scrawniest guy on the street, none of them can protect you from death. But Krishna is the deliverer. So I can't think of really, I've looked at a lot of the scriptures, the Zoroastrian Zendavesta, the Torah, the Bible, different things like that, some of the Muslim writings, and I don't see where women are speaking there anywhere. So right there, that should settle that argument.
Right.
That we are not a misogynistic cult or culture. Now the question arises, and it is a controversy in ISKCON, and I don't believe it's a controversy in any of the other missions in the world, which there are quite a few, and that would include Gaudiya Math also. It's not really a controversy amongst them, but in ISKCON it is a yearly controversy that seems to get pushed, kick the can down the road, and so forth, and it seems to be a problem. And whereas in other places, like there is a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was a householder, later became a vanaprastha, and he established a woman's ashram in Calcutta. Right. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta himself had established what was it called? The Vishnupriya
Pali. Vishnupriya
Pali in Mayapur, and it was an exclusive ashram for Vaishnavis. So years later, one of Bhaktisiddhanta's Grihastha disciples established a woman's ashram, and that ashram exists today. And it's all Vaishnavis, and one of those Vaishnavis is a Guru Ma.
Yep.
And they have beautiful deities of Gaurava Madhava. I might note they have the highest Gaudiya deities in our sampradaya. And they are orange dressed, saffron clad. They all appear to be well over 60 years of age, at least over 55, 60 years of age. So, and they have been there for a couple of decades, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's not like there are no women renunciates, although they are not really sannyasis, although on their website it says Guru Ma and sannyasinis. They are not really sannyasis.
Yeah.
Similarly, there's another parallel, not only women gurus, the general position of women gurus, there's also somewhat of a controversy about women sannyas. And then there's yet a further controversy, which we call me Prabhu. And all three of these things, where the title Prabhu should be applied or maybe not applied or something like that, whether or not women can be sannyasis or not, and whether or not there should be or can be female gurus, Vaishnavi gurus. So one of the problems that personally that I see is that in the bigger Hare Krishna movement, and I'll give you three guesses who we're talking about, and the first two guesses don't count. They do not look at the whole tradition and its entirety. Sometimes they look back into our greater tradition, but they kind of supermarket pick. They do cherry picking, They're like, oh yeah, we'll take this example, instead of looking at the examples and getting a broader understanding, you see. So we're going to discuss now, Giri and I, you and I, we're going to discuss these three things. Women in general in Krishna consciousness, women as gurus, women as sannyasi, and this one called Call Me Prabhu.
Right.
And in this discussion, we're going to read quotes from Srila Prabhupada. We're going to read quotes from Srila Sridhara Maharaj. And we're going to mention things like Ramayana, Mahabharata. And I doubt that we can cover everything that can be said or contributed to the dialogue, because we just have information, and as you know, then we just talk about it, and inevitably we always leave something out. So we're going to put links below to various articles and such that deal with these topics below. But first off, let's be very clear. There is no way that you can tag the word misogynistic to the Hare Krishna movement, either current or
previous
in antiquity.
Yeah.
It never was, and it is not. And as long as Krishna consciousness is the focus and the achievement in any Hare Krishna movement, then it will not be misogynistic in the future. But people raise this type of, triggered statements to get the clickbaits on the internet and to excite people's emotions and anxieties and all of these things.
So in other words, what you're saying is, if there is any misogyny, it's because of individuals, not because of the culture of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, well, it goes around the other way. There are a lot of women in the world who hate men. Some for good reason, some for no reason. People hate blacks. Hey, people hate whites. This world's filled with a lot of hate, a lot of prejudice. But Krishna consciousness is based on a person's identity as aham brahmasmi. His personal identity, I am spirit soul. And my identity of you is also as spirit soul. But the fact is, there are lots of different bodies in this material world, and those bodies come along with various characteristics, even propensities, and they are not all the same. It is so foolish to say men and women are the same, all races, everything is the same. This is foolishness beyond belief, but this has become the trend in modern civilization. They just want to Mahajanize everything, make everything the same, no distinction, no culture.
Yeah.
And what is the ultimate purpose of that? Further exploitation of the human being by an elitist class under the guise of liberation. Under the guise of you are freer now than you were before. This is all a big smoke screen. Anyway, that's a little bit different topic. So let's move ahead with some of these things. All right, Gary. So we had, there are about 4 or 5 pages of references and quotes that you gave me this morning. I'll just kind of let you pick the ones you want to read, because you're the one that did the research and put them all together. And I'll maybe make some comments as we go along.
Please, yeah. Yeah, so as you said, there's a lot of quotes, but I'm just cherry picking a few of the best ones, I think, what I consider the best.
Right.
So, in a purport to the first canto, 8th chapter, 20th verse, Srila Prabhupada says, "The Lord is so kind that he does not show special favor only to one who is a great philosopher. He knows the sincerity of purpose. For this reason only, women generally assemble in great numbers in any sort of religious function. In every country and in every sector of religion, it appears that the women are more interested than the men. This simplicity of acceptance of the Lord's authority is more effective than showy, insincere religious fervor."
Yes, and I think no place is that more clear than in India, when you have a Pandal program or just almost any type of a program.
Yeah.
It's 2-to-1, minimum 3-to-1, 4-to-1. I mean, it's outrageous. I've seen gatherings where Swamis would have a gathering somewhere, in a house or, in a smaller kind of a gathering, and there'd be 15 women there and 4 men or 5 men. The women overall we say they maintain the piety of India.
Exactly.
Overall in India, women are the core of maintaining religiosity in the home. They are the ones that make sure all the different festivals are observed, many of which we as, say, Gaudiya Vaisṇavas don't observe, but they are nonetheless religious festivals, and they are the glue that holds the whole thing together. The men are in so many cases absolutely pathetic.
Even I saw a video recently of an Orthodox church. There was some festival in an Orthodox church or something. 2/3 were women.
Yeah.
With their candles and everything.
So this is one of the qualities, the glorious qualities of a Vaishnavi is simplicity. Now, simplicity is also supposed to be a quality of men, but within the simplicity of women, there is their innate ability to accept shelter, to accept an authority. Whereas men, they're the first ones to be argumentative.
Yeah.
They're the first. Every guy has got an ego the size of Mount Everest. Whereas I'm just speaking in general. In general, the ego of women is not so big that it becomes an obstruction to authority, accepting authority. Now, in the Vedic culture, that is clear as day, as we would say, clear as day. In Western culture, it has been eroded decade by decade by decade for about the last 1.5 centuries.
Yeah.
And I used to say back in the 70s, I could see that because I've been in India and then back to the West, in particular in the 80s, going back and forth a lot, and see that more and more women in the West were trying to act like men. And it wasn't just their thinking, but it was almost like a programming. It was just subtle. And what I noticed along with that was the dissatisfaction in the family unit, leading to the highest, rate of divorce of any other country in the world. And I used to say, you know what? A normal man doesn't want to live and sleep next to another man. Now, there's another sector who prefers like that, but
Right.
Most men want to come home. I remember my father coming home from work, and he just had time to shower up, and dinner was on the table.
Yeah.
Now, the average guy doesn't want to come home and be told, hey, it's your turn to cook tonight. I mean, even the thing about children when they're born, in the West, I see so many guys carrying the baby around, you see, pushing the pram,
putting the diapers on,
doing the thing like that. But in Asia, that is clearly the duty of the mother, you see. That is the duty of women. They are the foundation. They are the glue that holds family and household together. But you can see that being eroded, and now it's to the point a lot of people don't even bother to go through a function of being married. I know devotees that were together for years and have children, and they were never officially married anywhere, neither in the courthouse under some legal arrangement or in a temple.
Right.
And then there's another sector of devotees. There are some men and women in the Hare Krishna movement in the West. They've been married 3, 4, 5, and 6 times, and even on like the 5th marriage, going and have a fire yagya. So, if you really just take a look at the Western Hare Krishna movement, when it comes to culture, we are extremely lacking. We are extremely lacking. The Western devotees have barely learned to eat with their right hand and clean themselves with their left hand. I mean, every time I've ever visited a Hare Krishna temple in the West, comes time for prasadam, here are the chapatis, and the 2 hands come up, and they tear the chapati in half with 2 hands.
Yeah.
Whereas in India, you will never see that. Even the rickshaw wallahs know you eat with your right hand, you clean yourself with the left hand. Mm-hmm. So, it's like Western culture, Western Hare Krishnas should look and say, culturally, we are at a tremendous disadvantage. And not just in the external culture. We are also at a disadvantage in the internal culture of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we should pay very close attention to the tradition of which we are born from and stop this thing where we separate ourselves from our ancestors, which our first ancestor, our grandparent organization, is the Gaudiya Mutt. And then our great-grandparents is Gaudiya Vaishnavism, running back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them will say, well, that was the East. That was the East. Yes, that was the East. And the East learned how to clean themselves after passing stool before the West even realized that taking a bath more than every few months or 6 months was a healthy activity. That's the difference. Let me tell you a story, Gary. I don't know who was on the trip. Maybe I'm not sure. Hari Sari Prabhu or who was there. Prabhupada flew into Australia with a group of devotees, a few devotees, and in that group, they were carrying a mridanga. So after they got through immigration and customs, one of the devotees said to Prabhupada, "Oh, Prabhupada, they confiscated the mridanga." And Prabhupada said, "Why they have done?" And he said, "Well, they said because of the leather, it was unclean." Now, if you've ever smelled a freshly made mridanga, which many of us have, it has the distinct smell of rawhide. Yeah. Raw hide, not tanned leather. You see, it smells like a little bit like the slaughterhouse, actually, raw hide. So because this was a new drum, it smelled like that. They confiscated that. And then Prabhupada said, cleanliness? What do they know about cleanliness? Because they said it was unclean. Well, what do they know about cleanliness? They do not even know how to clean themselves after passing stool. That is the sum and substance of Western culture. Even the President of the United States or the Prime Minister of India or the Queen herself passes stool in the middle of the day and does a soft paper routine. So they have in the military, way back when my father was, when I was living at home, I would hear this. My father would say, that guy would fail the white glove test. So I'll let you figure out what that meant. But they would give a swipe at certain areas of your body and see what they came up with on their white glove, you see. Now, what is that? Oh, that's gross. Yes, yeah. That is gross. And that's the state of every businessman on Wall Street, everybody working in the White House. I almost called it an outhouse. They don't even know how to clean their ass after taking a crap. That's what it boils down to. And we come from that culture. So we have more to learn than just how to maintain a human hygiene, Vaishnava hygiene. We have many things to learn from our ancient culture. And the position of men and women is never equated as the same, either in Krishna consciousness or in Vedic culture or even in in the watered down Vedic culture, which is known as Hinduism. All right, so right there you have one of the supreme qualities of women that puts them at a greater advantage than men, and that is their simplicity. When within that simplicity, the ability to accept authority, where men are so argumentative. In fact, even this controversy, Gary, remember we found out even this controversy existing in ISKCON, should women be guru or not, is fueled predominantly by the men. It's not that there's a bunch of the Vaishnavis out there clamoring to be guru.
No, not at
There may be some qualified Vaishnavis out there who could maintain the proper standards, know the science of Krishna consciousness, and be able to enthuse and guide disciples. Probably, I would just probably say yes, there are. But within getting up to that level of the statement, there are questions, qualifications. What are the qualifications? Some of us may say, listen, before you make any more gurus, some of you ought to find out what are the qualifications of gurus, because I've heard it said, and I'm a supporter of that also, that a vast majority of the so-called gurus of the world today, I'm not talking about the Hindu schmindus, I'm talking about the ones in the Hare Krishna movement, they are covered ritviks. They're not situated in the Guru Tattva. They are covered ritviks in the same way that Shankaracharya is not a pure theist. He is a covered Buddhist. So if you have to draw the line between pure theism and non-pure theism, Shankaracharya falls in the non-pure theism along with Buddhism. And if you have to draw the line on what is Guru Tattva and what is not Guru Tattva, you will find that many of these gentlemen in the world who have the title of guru, who have even in some cases thousands of disciples, they are not situated in the Guru Tattva because they are institutionally appointed, they are institutionally governed, and they preach according to institutional considerations, not the consideration of the absolute truth. They are not directly under the authority of the absolute truth. They are under an institutional arrangement. And thus they fall in the covered ritvik. Now a ritvik just says, there are no gurus, we're just priest and Prabhupada or whatever, he's the only guru. That's a ritvik in general. And a covered ritvik pretends to be the guru, the ultimate authority, but actually is not. It's a very fine line. But before you go increasing more gurus, like someone said, we need more gurus. It's like, you don't need me more, you need better. You need qualified gurus, not just gurus. And I have said this before, gender is no qualification of guru. The qualification of guru is not a gender consideration. We found nowhere in the Shastra that guru must be a male. That's not the qualification.
Right.
And what happens once you, this is my thinking, once you attach, and they've already done it, the controversy is, should there be women gurus? What do you mean, women gurus? For example, Prabhupada said there is no such thing as a false guru. It's what is it called? An oxymoron. Yeah. A guru is a representative of the absolute truth. There is no such thing as a false guru. There is only guru. And so there's no men guru and there are no women gurus. So now you have men. These are a gender, sexual gender. You have women. But if you're paying attention to the tendency of this world, now you've got a third gender. That would be gays and lesbians. And then you have a fourth gender. That's the transgenders. And then you got this fifth gender. It's called gender fluid. This morning I feel like I'm a woman. Tomorrow, I don't know, I'm feeling rather manly this afternoon. And I switch my dress and I switch my gender through the day. This is a current social trend in the liberal thinking Western world. So you've got about 5 genders. So once you attach one of these genders to the name guru or to the title guru, and you clamor for that, and finally you have women or female gurus, then the next thing's going to happen. Someone's going to raise their hand and say, well, what about gay gurus? Mm-hmm. We need to have gay gurus. And then someone says, well, we have women gurus, but I'm a lesbian, and I think we should have lesbian gurus. And then the transgender is going to show up and go, oh, that's all great. You've got men, women, gay, and lesbian. But what about us? We also have to be included. We need to have transgender gurus. And then you have the AC/DC morning AM PM gurus. And you laugh and think, no, that would never happen. Oh, really? Then you haven't watched. You haven't paid attention to the historical degradation when it comes to sexuality in the Western world, and which is also permeated all over the world, but the capital is the good old USA and the good old UK. Mm-hmm. This is the heartland of sexual degradation in human society. And I say degradation because it is not liberation. Mm-hmm. And, well, you can argue it to the point of death, and then you'll find out, and we'll all find out, did we take the right path or did we oops it? And I think a lot of people are oopsing it big time. And what that's going to produce for their next life, well, God only knows, but I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. All right, so
what you're saying is it's not a question of female guru or male guru. Why do you want female gurus? Is it because they're qualified, or is it because you're moving with the social trend of the time?
Yeah, trying to satisfy, trying to look like something. And Srila Prabhupada, I think we gave some quotes on that. We do not have to choreograph kirtan. A choreographed kirtan is a choreographed kirtan. It is never ecstatic, period. You don't have ecstatic choreography.
Right.
You have choreography, and that's it. There's this tendency to please the public. Srila Prabhupada is saying, and he's the one that started the Western Hare Krishna movement. He's chanting. He's saying we don't have to try to please the public. You see, we try to please Krishna. We try to please Mahaprabhu. If Krishna is pleased, then we are successful. And the type of people that we will attract will be the type of people that we want. But if we lower the standards to pleasing people and turning kirtan and Krishna consciousness into a big love fest, you see, into a big chant, dance, and be happy contest, you know, a boily girly show, well, we're going to be diminishing the quality.
And you can't please the mob anyway, because today they're like this, tomorrow they're like that. They're being pulled by the modes of material nature.
Exactly. Yeah. And nowhere is there change more prevalent than in the Western world. I mean, for example, in India, the sari, it's been worn for at least 1,000 years, possibly a little bit more. His sari has its whole history. There are sari shops. If you meet ladies in saris. The dhoti's been pretty much relegated to certain areas, the uneducated villagers, and weddings.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, not that much has changed. The food is similarly changed. Vegetarianism has been there for a gazillion years. But in the West, you know, they just keep flipping and flopping back and forth and everything, whether it's hairstyle, beard style, you know, length of hair, whatever, dress, style. Every year you go to the store and there's a different style of blue jeans. Now they're so skinny you can't even get your legs into the damn things, you know, if you wanted to wear them. You know, right. It's ridiculous. And I rarely see a woman in a dress. Really, in the West, you rarely see a woman in a dress on the street. You go to the mall, you go downtown, you know, just go to where people walk around and shop and everything like that. And you rarely see a woman in a dress. They're all wearing pants.
Yeah.
So, and you know, how long that will hold its ground? Well, they'll probably change to something else. Mm-hmm. It's the culture of change. Prabhupada called it your disease. Yeah. It's a disease. We're not satisfied with anything, always dissatisfied, always wanting to change. and even Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Giri, do you have that verse there about maintaining one's position?
Oh yeah, that's chapter 335. Yeah, I see if I have it. Yeah, I have it. Yeah,
Just
Krishna
read
says
the English.
it is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous.
Yeah, but people want to say, no, this is not correct. That people have paths, that genders have a path, that there is duty. So when it comes to Vedic society, the two most important books to show us example are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to Srimad Bhagavatam, yes, there's a lot of social good example, but Srimad Bhagavatam actually culminates in transcending the Varnashram system, transcending Varnashram duties. But that section is found in 10th canto, and that is not to be imitated. That is not to be imitated. So the duties of both men and women have been outlined for millennia after millennium after millennia. They are equal in the sense that they are equal contributors to the success of human society.
Right.
You see. Now, when we just take a look at, particularly, Vaishnava traditions in general, we do see that there have been women gurus in Gaudiya Vaishnavism in its history since the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There were some great examples. There was, Giri, give us a couple names. There was
Jhanavi Devi, of course.
Jhanavi Devi, the wife of Nityananda Prabhu. However, Jhanavi Devi, who is Jhanavi Devi?
Mm-hmm. Jhanavi, she's
Oh, I know who she is. She was this girl that was going to Southern Cal University, right, and saw the Hare Krishna movement and decided to join and give up taking LSD and give up illicit sex. And she joined the Hare Krishna movement, and then she became a guru, right? No, that's not who Jhanavi was. She's a Lakshmi, goddess of fortune,
right.
not a mortal human being. So, that seems to be forgotten. But nonetheless, in the Leela, she was guru. Then there were a few others. Actually, Srila Sridhara mentioned there was quite a few others, actually.
Yeah.
Of which none of them left any shastra behind.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll read what he has to say, what he has to say about that. But so there have been many. But when you look at the Sri Vaishnavas, the Madhvas, and the what they call these days the Vallabhas, the Nimbarkas, etc., to the best of my thinking, you will not find any.
No, actually, that brings me to one small side point, is that advocates of both sides of this controversy are going to Sri Vaishnavas and Madhvas in particular because they're Vaishnava-sampradayas, and getting their take on should there be female gurus or should be no female gurus. And I'm thinking, you're going to these people outside of your own tradition, and these people, according to their philosophy, no, there shouldn't be female gurus.
Right.
Neither should there be Mleccha gurus.
Yes, that's really, they can't figure this out. It's just they go to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So when the Sri Vaishnava tells you, now, ultimately, I want to just state this because somebody's probably listening and saying, so you guys are going in support of this. No, we're just fluffing out the whole conversation or trying to, right? So you go to the Sri Vaishnavas and you ask them, should there be women gurus? And their answer is no. But then you can go back the next day and say, should there be non-Brahmin born Western gurus? And they will say no.
Yeah.
So, if you want to find out about your tradition, then why don't you go to, oh my God, he's going to say it, the Gaudiya Mutt. And why don't you research that history? Oh yeah, God save us, from the Gaudiya Mutt, It's quite hilarious, you see.
Yeah.
And so you would find out that, yes, there have been women gurus, but then you may find out some other information. What should govern that? What was the necessity of that? What is the general tone?
Mm-hmm.
And who did they initiate?
Right.
Guru means initiation, but guru doesn't always mean initiation. In fact, we are a Shiksha-sampradaya.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, don't go and just go cherry picking and look for the answers that support your personal feeling. You see,
Right.
instead of looking at our own tradition. So in our tradition, qualification is foremost, and second is necessity. Qualification and necessity. This will dictate. Not a voting community, not appeasing the outcry of society, and certainly no, well, I want to be. Qualification and necessity. That should be looked at. Gender is not a qualification or a disqualification.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so anyway, there's some nice things to get around to here. This is going to get to be too long. So, Giri, you have a couple other nice quotes there or references, things we want to read?
It was saying that Srila Prabhupada was talking to Bhagavan and Yogeshwar in a room conversation in Rome.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah. This conversation in Rome between Prabhupada and Bhagavan and Yogeshwar Prabhus. So Yogeshwar asks, he says, here's a problem. The women today want the same rights as men. How can they be satisfied? Prabhupada says, everything will be satisfied. Just like our women, Krishna conscious, they are working. They don't want equal rights with men. It is due to Krishna consciousness. They are cleansing the temple. They are cooking very nicely. They are satisfied. They never say that, I have to go to Japan for preaching like Prabhupada. They never say that. This is artificial. So Krishna consciousness means work in his constitutional position.
Okay.
Then Bhagavan.
So, wait, let me just mention. So, right, when he says women today, Prabhupada is assuming you're talking about the people, the women on the outside of the world, because he's referring to that, well, in Krishna consciousness, we don't have that problem, you see. And it's a fact. Let's speak about the 1970s, the time of Srila Prabhupada. We did not have this, there was always, I think there's always a problem between men and women, young boys and girls being together and whatnot. But on this level of what we're discussing, there was no problem. There wasn't a problem. In fact, I remember, I forget the year, whatever it was, in New York, when Yogesh Chandra was the Sankirtan leader. We had a very dedicated Sankirtan team there going out collecting every day. And I remember that year, there were only 3 people who gave class all winter long, Bhagavatam class, every morning, attended by almost everyone in the temple every day. And that was Bali Mardan, Jadharani, and I can't remember, I think Jayadvaita. These were the 3 people. That's it. There were other people who could give class, who were qualified to give class, you would have to say. But for the necessity, these other qualified devotees were just doing Sankirtan. This was the big push to be able to buy a bigger property in New York. And so there was never a complaint that Jadharani is giving class, that there was... Everyone was satisfied because everyone was serving Prabhupada, everyone was serving Krishna, and within that is a fulfillment.
Right.
On the sidelines, yes, I think in different places, different things happened that were outside of the influence of Krishna consciousness and where Maya creeped in. But where there was Krishna consciousness, there was fulfillment, there was satisfaction, and this wasn't there. So Prabhupada is talking, oh, you mean the people outside. But now we're not talking about the world. We're talking about the world of Hare Krishna. This has become an issue now, 40 years after the time, 40-some years after the time of Srila Prabhupada. This is an issue.
Right.
Why is it an issue? Because people, obviously, then you will say, they are not fulfilled. They are not satisfied. Why is that? There's something wrong at the core in Krishna consciousness. And it isn't that, oh, when we have some women gurus, then it's all going to be peaceful. Or we don't have any women gurus, it's all going to be peaceful. There's something wrong at the core. All right. Go ahead.
So then Bhagavan continues. He says to Prabhupada, but actually our women are so qualified in so many ways. But these girls who simply work in the city can do nothing. They can't cook, they can't clean, they can't sew. Prabhupada responds, all rubbish. These modern girls, they are all rubbish. Therefore, they are simply used for sex satisfaction. Topless, bottomless.
Topless, bottomless. You ever notice that? You go out into the public. I mean, you even watch the news. You watch Fox News or some news channel. And the men they're dressed. They have a suit, they have a tie, they have a jacket, they have a T-shirt up their neck. Every time there's a newscaster, she's just dying to show you as much of her breast as possible.
Yeah.
You see. And it just keeps going from there. I'm always going to, it's just like, if we're all the same, why doesn't the average man like to expose more of himself, whether it be his biceps or his abs or whatever? Right. I mean, there are some weird dudes out there that dress like that in public, but almost hands down, even these grandmas are walking around with these low-cut blouses or sweaters or whatever. Right. Girls just wearing T-shirts. You know, it's like very, very strange. Mm-hmm. What it says to me is they're being confused by something.
Yeah.
They're being motivated by something, and it's different than men. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know that. In fact, I don't know any, but I haven't seen that many guys. Well, here in Burlington, Vermont, you can see a few guys dressed in dresses with beards. They're just weirdos. The average guy doesn't wear a beard, but the average woman wears pants. Mm-hmm. And 100 years ago, pants were delegated to almost exclusively to men. So why is that? No, don't ask a question. And for God's sakes, whatever you do, don't learn to think. Just be obedient to social trends and you're guaranteed to be happy.
Just accept it.
Really? I don't think so. It's not the way that's not the way it works, and it's certainly not the way it works in Krishna consciousness. Mm-hmm. So Prabhupada is saying that our women, they're happy, they're satisfied, they're serving Krishna. Boys and girls living together, we are serving Krishna, we are happy. He's mentioned these modern girls. He could also have thrown in there these modern guys. They're rubbish.
Yeah.
We do not care what they think. We're supposed to be an example for them to follow, not they become an example for us to follow. Like, I hate to say it, so I won't say the person's name, but one sannyasi friend of mine, about 8 or so years ago, when India passed this law that same-sex marriages would be permitted legally in India, my friend, this sannyasi, he said, finally, India's coming out of the dark ages. I was like, oh my God, coming out of the dark ages. No, they're going into the dark ages. This is the dark age. Don't expect to see social enlightenment. Even the vegan movement, I pointed out, this is not a social enlightenment. Mm-hmm. This is a deeper step towards cow killing, because the cow will have no use, and thus there will be no cows. Why will people have cows if there's no use? So, the movement of Lord Chaitanya, and particularly from the time of Bhakti Siddhanta and Bhaktivinoda, and that was taken to the West by Srila Prabhupada, we are to be examples. Mm-hmm. And in order to be an example, we will have to challenge modern social norms, which are not normal. We should challenge these trends, not acquiesce, bow down, kowtow to what the hell this degraded Kali Yuga society wants from us. We should be setting the example that they should strive for, and we should be able to back it up philosophically with knowledge and example. That is Krishna consciousness, not this bend the knee and kowtow to public opinion. All right.
There's a nice quote here from Srila Maharaj in the same regard.
Yeah.
He's talking about a conversation he had with his aunt when he was young. So he said his aunt told him, "Oh, don't you know that ladies represent Lakshmi Devi? They belong to the same section, and in them the qualities of sacrifice and submission are very clearly visible, so they should be respected. They should be respected, and the aggressive male nature is to be viewed unfavorably. The feminine ego conception is an ideal of a very noble type, wherein sacrifice, the devotional aspect, is very prominent. Ladies are not aggressors. They are sacrifice personified, whereas the male nature, that is aggressive."
Yes, this is also a similar parallel to what I was saying about the ego of men. They're very argumentative, very big egos. They want to argue with authority. It's very hard to surrender.
Exactly.
This recalls a story. Srila Sridhara Maharaj, there was a devotee who was the same age as me. We were born in the same year, 1946. And of course, this is like 20-some years back or what have you. But he was a brahmachari. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj asked him, "Oh, so why is it you never married?" And so this devotee, he was a Prabhupada disciple. And he said to Sridhar Maharaj, "Well, I just wanted to avoid the hassle." And Sridhar Maharaj said to him, "Wrong answer. That is not the reason to remain single or to remain brahmachari, to avoid responsibility, to avoid duty, to avoid a hassle." He said, "The problem is that you see women." He said, "There is no problem. Women are not a problem. How you look at them, that's the problem." You see, that's the problem. And you see this all the time. I mean, I saw this yesterday. We were at a stoplight, and there was some people going in a restaurant, and these three guys walked by in the street, and this girl walked up the steps, and this one guy turned around, and he was, borderline obnoxious. If the girl had had a boyfriend or a husband or something, probably go down and kick this guy's teeth out. He was hanging his tongue out and making lewd gestures towards this woman. But I rarely see a woman come up behind a man and start making lewd gestures and commenting about his physique. So, the men are aggressive. They're the cause of so many of these issues, the aggressive. So that has to be regulated. That has to be controlled. Therefore, you have to have a certain separation in any society of the men and women, because the men are the problem. It's like the kids and the candy. You see, they even call some of these women who are used to bring down a politician or create some scandal, they call them honeypots.
Right.
They don't call them chili pots. They call them honeypots. You see, so that's the candy. And the men are like the kids. So the separation is to control the men. It is not it would say, well, what you'd have to say is not to control the women, it's to control the men. So the men is the problem, and the vision. But this thing that's going on in the world is called male shaming, white shaming. You should feel ashamed you're white. You should feel ashamed of yourself because you're a male, Caucasian, what have you. It's just like, this is nonsense. This is no solution to feel ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
Learn proper sense control and put your consciousness at a higher focus and a higher level. We've got the solution right there. This shaming is not going to do anything. I should feel ashamed because some white guy 100 years ago had slaves. It's just like, ain't got anything to do with me. I didn't have any slaves. I don't feel bad that I'm a male. I don't feel bad that I'm white. I don't feel, if anything, sometimes I feel embarrassed that I'm an American. I think any Westerner should feel a little embarrassed.
By a lack of culture,
By the lack of culture.
Yeah.
Just like once I was drinking water in the street in Vrindavan in the summer from one of those dispensers, how they give cold water from a copper pot. And I drank it. Let me see if I can get my hand in the screen here. I drank it from this part of the hand. I held my hand up and I sipped the water directly like this. And there was a man standing there, and he came up to me and he told me in English very clearly that water is to be drunken from the side of the hand. Where's the camera there? From the side of the hand. To do that, the elbow has to come up and drink from the side. Achman, on the other hand, is taken from this front of the hand. And he said some Sanskrit.
Yeah.
And I was just, whatever, I was a little cocky. That was I was 45 years ago. And I looked at him and I said, well, it goes from here, it goes from there, it goes to the belly. And I patted my stomach. And he put his hand up and he went, Malecha, no culture. Mm-hmm. In India, it was if you touched your plate with your left hand, I mean, that was one of the first things as foreigners, you came to India, and whether you knew it, it didn't matter. You got it. Don't touch your plate with the left hand, especially if you're going to a life member's house or something like this. You will be looked at as scum. You don't eat with your left hand. So it was taught in temples in the West, but it certainly wasn't enforced with that kind of like staunchness. Mm-hmm. So culture matters, particularly in India. So one of the problems that I see in the issues that are involving women, particularly women gurus, is that what will be seen in India by, I guess you'd have to say, in a sense, allied Vaishnava Sampradayas or other Vaishnava Sampradayas, and what will be seen by the West is two different things. Mm-hmm. It will be highly criticized from the Orthodox, Brahmin, and Vaishnava, and even Mayavad Sampradayas, the Orthodox. From the general Hindu society, no. There are already so many. There's the Brahma Kumaris. These are not bona fide, but the Brahma Kumaris. There's Amma. There's all kind. There's Kali and his wife in Chennai.
Kalki.
Kalki. There's so many guru mas in the Hindu culture, but in the Orthodox culture, that will be some thing. So, but if someone was to take that decision, and that's a problem too. It's not a voting body decision. Mm-hmm. Is it Krishna's decision? Does he want such and such Vaishnavi to represent him as Guru Tattva? If he does, and your voting committee votes against that, well, that's just too bad for you, because your voting committee does not represent the will of God at its whim. Mm-hmm. And if Krishna does, well, then we don't care what these other Orthodox people think. We should be away from that. But so far in this discussion, not our discussion right now, but in what I've read and seen online, etc., I don't see that this is anything other than just a confundos, totally confused on all sides of the argument. They don't know what they're arguing for, and they don't know what they're arguing against, actually. Yeah. Because they are too much within their own little bubble. I mean, when I finally was, let's simplify it. When I left ISKCON in 1986 in the fall, shortly after I realized that, actually to a certain extent I was in a cult. Because everybody in the world was not a demon or a karmi. That's one of the first things I realized when I actually had to sit down and talk to people. And there's so many things I realized that we live in a bubble in that institution. We live in a bubble and it's such a big bubble that you can pass your whole life in there, and the outside world is, you're seeing through your bubble. Well, if you've ever been on the inside of a glass bubble or something like that, there's a distortion in what you see. Mm. And so, Krishna consciousness is not a cult, but these institutions have become cults.
Right.
So, all right, let's go on with some reading information.
So there's some quotes here from Srila Prabhupada and Srila Sridhar Maharaj on women gurus, when they were specifically asked about whether women could become gurus.
Please.
The first one is a discussion between Prabhupada and Aitreya Rishi. So Prabhupada makes a statement. He says, so a crazy man's statement is not accepted. Child's statement, crazy man's statement, unauthorized person's statement, blind man's statement, we cannot accept. Aitreya says, a woman's statement? Prabhupada says, if a woman is perfect in Krishna consciousness, just like Janava Devi, Lord Nityananda's wife, she was acharya. She was controlling the whole Vaishnava community. Aitreya says, do you have a reference about that in any of your books, Srila Prabhupada? Is that Prabhupada's books?
That's a good one. So, what to speak of now? Somebody says something and the devotee goes, is that in the books? Like, if it's not in the books, it don't matter. So here's Aitreya Rishi. Prabhupada is saying something. He's saying, is that in the books? That's a good one. Yeah. Well, what he meant was he wanted to know, do we have a reference? Is that in your books? But it's so kind of funny that, is that in the books, Srila Prabhupada? And Prabhupada, what's he saying? I don't know. Maybe I did. Maybe it is.
I don't think, but there are many acharyas. Maybe somewhere I might have mentioned. It is not that women cannot be acharya. Generally, they do not become. In very special case. But Janava Devi was accepted as, but she did not declare.
So in special case, that means necessity. In general, when you just want to identify, is the guru a man or a woman? Okay. In general, throughout history, through all the sampradayas, and forever, look at the list in your Parampara book, and even Janavi is not mentioned. And Sridhar Maharaj will mention a little bit why. Even Janavi, she is not mentioned in the Parampara. It is male dominated, you would have to say. It is men. But their qualification is not that they are men. There are many duties and qualifications of a guru. And in general, only special cases would women be able to rise to the occasion and the fulfillment of all these duties, which goes beyond accepting just a guru puja and sitting on a chair and giving some talk. It goes way beyond that.
So the next quote is Professor O'Connell. He's a very famous professor in Toronto. And he had a darshan with Srila Prabhupada, and he directly asks Prabhupada, is it possible, Swamiji, for a woman to be a guru in the line of disciplic succession? Prabhupada says, yes. Janava Devi was, Nityananda's wife. She became. If she is able to go to the highest perfection of life, why it is not possible to become guru? But not so many. Actually, one who has attained the perfection, she can become guru. But man or woman, unless one has attained this perfection, Jai Krishna Tattvavet Se Guru Hoy. The qualification of guru is that he must be fully cognizant of the science of Krishna. Then he or she can become guru. Jai Krishna Tattvavet Se Guru Hoy. In our material world, is it any prohibition that women cannot become professor? If she is qualified, she can become professor. What is the wrong there? She must be qualified. That is the position. So similarly, if the woman understands Krishna consciousness perfectly, she can become guru.
So understanding Krishna consciousness perfectly, one becomes guru. Understanding Krishna consciousness imperfectly, one should not be voted into the position of guru, or one should not take it upon oneself to become guru. So what does that actually mean? Chant, dance, and be happy with a bunch of beautiful ladies choreographing some dance in the front of a kirtan? This is all that it means to become guru? Let me just get to the point. If you're out there and you're a guru and you're still thinking that the living entities, the eternal spirit souls who are living eternally as pure devotees in the spiritual world and love of God with Krishna, one day got envious over Krishna's lunch or his dress or his cup of milk that Mother Yasoda gave him, or the fact that he was suckling Mother Yasoda's breast, and you became envious of Krishna, and Krishna threw you down into this material world with his hundreds of billions of quadrillions 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 of other pure devotees who also became envious of Krishna and fell down, then you haven't a clue of what the spiritual world actually is, and you have no position, no place being a guru and representative of Krishna. That is an upasiddhanta of the most fundamental type, and if you're blabbing that falsity around the world, you should not be a guru. Similarly, if you think that Shiksha Guru applies to being within your institution, your limited institution, then you are not representing the Guru Tattva either. And I could make this whole video for the next 2 hours on the upasiddhantas and ill behaviors of so-called gurus in the Hare Krishna movement today, which are disqualifications for being guru. Knowing the science of Krishna means knowing these things as they are represented by our parampara, and we are most keenly to pay attention from Bhaktivinoda and Bhakti Siddhanta, and then Bhakti Siddhanta's disciples, Srila Prabhupada, most important for us, and Srila Sridhara Maharaj, etc., and Srila Puri Maharaj, and these personalities. If you're not representing the philosophy according to them, and don't tell me that Prabhupada said, because you haven't understood anything, if you think he's going to say something different than his guru. So then the question comes, just put the women guru question on hold and consider, do you have any men gurus actually who know the science of Krishna? Or are they just social managers? Are they just charismatic? Or whatever? I mean, so many trends. Now the trend is how many in choreography. A generation before was opulence. You know, how opulent was a guru's Vyasa Puja book? How opulent were his living quarters? There was one guru in somewhere over there in Europe who had gold fixtures on his toilet flush, on his toilet bowl, and he had a 10,000 euro foot mat or something like this. I mean, opulence, and this was the standard. And right now the standard is numbers, choreograph.
Trend of which gurus can manage the temples nicely, like the very sort of corporate managed temples.
Yes, all these types of things which are not in the list of qualifications for knowing the science of Krishna at all. So anyway, that becomes a big question. Who's qualified anywhere? What are the qualifications?
Right.
And the biggest one is knowing the science of Krishna and then backing it up with with proper behavior. Right. That picture that was flying around a couple weeks ago of one of the ISKCON gurus getting a body massage from one of his elderly or middle-aged lady disciples. Looked like she was from Russia or something, getting a massage. He's in a gumsha. He's got his bead bags. He's smiling like a clown in a circus, and he's getting a massage from one of his female disciples.
Yeah, she's massaging his buttocks.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, and he just has a little gumsha on. He's smiling, and isn't this cute? Guru Dev's getting a massage. Where's that going to go in the future when disciples have that picture to reference? Where's that going to go in the future?
Yeah.
I'll leave that to your imagination. All right, please, Gary, continue. I think there's some other good quotes there.
There's a letter to Hamsadutta here, a famous letter. Prabhupada says, I want that all of my spiritual sons and daughters will inherit the title of Bhaktivedanta, so that the family transcendental diploma will continue through the generations. Those possessing the title of Bhaktivedanta will be allowed to initiate disciples. Maybe by 1975, all of my disciples will be allowed to initiate and increase the numbers of the generations. That is my program.
Well, pretty much none of this happened, you know. Yeah. None of this really happened in the time of Srila Prabhupada. I don't remember. I don't even think there was any bhakti, any kind of course. It was suggested by Srila Prabhupada. It did happen in later years. This course in Mayapur, passing out Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vedanta, these different titles.
But there's the irony. They have these courses, But anyone can go to them. Anyone who's even uninitiated.
Yes, yes.
Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta.
Yes. These are for the initiated disciples, but
Yeah.
actually many uninitiated devotees go there and qualify. But they haven't even taken initiation. So
Right.
what is their qualification? The fundamental qualification. The first qualification is Shraddha, faith. Ado Shraddha. In the beginning, there must be faith. Ado Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, and Bhajana Kriya. And Bhajana Kriya is where Diksha occurs.
Right.
So they don't even have the first step. But they have enough faith that they're studying Srila Prabhupada's books, they're learning, they're taking a course, they're paying for this course, they're coming halfway around the world to get their certification, but they don't have enough faith to accept Guru. Why is this? Because they're Ritvik, that's why. Covered Ritviks. They don't proclaim Ritvik, but they act Ritvik.
Right.
And how is that possible? Because it's being promoted in the society. Yes, you can take this course. You can become certified Bhakti this, Bhakti that, maybe even a Bhakti Vedanta. I don't know the whole thing. I might be making a little bit of a mistake here, but in general, what I'm saying is true. They can become certified up to Bhakti Vedanta, but then according to this letter, they should be able to initiate.
Right.
But Prabhupada says any of his disciples, not a non-disciple of nobody, only his disciples. And being his disciples doesn't mean that you just read his books and like this and follow this Ritvik idea, because that's true. Then every Bengali brahmachari and householder in Bengal can, by the same philosophy, oh God, are we going to introduce philosophy in the Krishna consciousness movement? What a horrible thing that would be. But by that same philosophy, anybody that knows Bengali can become Bhaktivinoda's disciple. And hell, if you know enough Sanskrit, you can become Rupa Goswami's disciple or Sanatan Goswami's disciple. So if that philosophy is true with Srila Prabhupada, our present A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, then it's true for any guru if you can read their books and you can read their letters.
Right.
So the Ritvik philosophy is a nonsense philosophy. It isn't a philosophy. It's an adjustment to chaos involving gurus and disciples.
Right.
And then there's the covered version of this. This is a very important thing, actually, the covered Ritvik society. That is ISKCON. And then you have the Ritvik society. That is also called ISKCON, at least in Bangalore it is. But they are birds of the same feather. They do not represent Guru Tattva, either one of them. All right, so I'm sure I'm going to get a bit of hate email from the non-philosophers out there who will hate and give me a big fat thumbs down.
And that one other point, as you said, you pointed this out many times, is that when an ISKCON guru falls down, then there's generally this letter that goes out. It's the same letter. They just changed the name of the guru that's fallen. And it just says, we encourage his disciples to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. What's that? That's Ritvik.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, I mean, they have, yes, actually. And when Srila Sridhara Maharaj was asked about this, he said they should take shelter of Lord Nityananda. Because Lord Nityananda is the general principle of Guru Tattva. The general principle of Guru Tattva. And that they should pray to Lord Nityananda for guidance. You know, he didn't say, well, you know, because, there have been fall downs in the Gaudiya Math, although there have been a minuscule number of fall downs, actually.
Yeah.
Whereas ISKCON has lost over 100 sannyasis. If you add gurus and sannyasis, it's over 100. I think Gaudiya Math and their disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta who took sannyas and gave it up were one or two. One or two. Over 51 of Srila Prabhupada's sannyasis retired from their sannyas. And there's been a horrific record even after that. And then throw into that the number of gurus. And I don't know, there was only one guru who retired in Gaudiya Math, and that was Ananta Vasudev.
Right.
And all the other disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta who stepped forward and accepted disciples continued through their whole life without falling down. and without taking massage from women or without being gay gurus or whatever, having their sexuality absolutely under control.
Yeah.
You know. Right.
So there's two very important quotes here by Srila Maharaj, again, on this particular topic of women gurus. So this is from Sri Guru in His Grace, chapter 3. Srila Maharaj says, otherwise, after Janava Devi, the wife of Lord Nityananda, up to Vipin Goswami, from whom Bhaktivinoda Thakura took initiation, there are so many unknown lady gurus. Through them, the mantra came to Vipin Goswami, and from him, Bhaktivinoda Thakura received the mantra. We accept Bhaktivinoda Thakura, but should we count all those ladies in our disciplic succession? What was their realization?
Yes, so from Janavi, it became a family thing, the Parivar, the family of Janavi. And
Right.
so it became a family tradition that in the Grihasta community, that there were family members were then initiated by, there was always a Guru Ma in that wider caste of people connected to the family of Janavi, or claiming connection to the family of Janavi. And of course, then they had many of their initiated disciples who were not blood family, so-called blood family related to Janavi, and they were initiated, but none of them would become gurus.
Right.
So all the way up to Bipin Bihari. Now, I don't know exactly his blood relation. He is in the Janavi Parampara there.
Bhagnapara Vaishnavas, yeah.
Yeah. What's it called again?
Bhagnapara, that is the area. They're descendants, I think, of Vamsi Vadana, who was a disciple of Janavi.
Yes, not actually the blood family, although nowadays you might get the impression that they're claiming to be the bloodline. Sounds like some kings of Europe, the bloodline,
Yeah.
So, but Sridhar Maharaj points out that none of them are mentioned. None of them, not even Janavi.
Mm-hmm.
And he draws into question. There are so many carrying the formality, passing on the mantra, but the question would be, well, what is any of their realization? And what has been their contribution in that realization? Even Janavi, to the best of my knowledge, please correct me if I'm wrong, she didn't write any commentary.
No.
To anything. All the commentaries on Vedanta, all the commentaries on Bhagavatam, spanning thousands of years, are made by gurus who just happen to be men. I think I'm going to just inject this one little thing here if we have time, because this is getting longer than we thought it was going to be.
Sure.
We did. It's been 1 year since Let's Talk YouTube channel has been available. Just a little over 1 year, and so we took a look the other day, Giri, if you'll remember, to the analytics of our channel. How many people have watched this? What countries do they come from? And I was surprised to see that YouTube even knows what gender you are.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch a video on YouTube, they know what gender you are. So big brothers everywhere. So just to give you a little general statistics, we had over 30,000 views total for our videos. Now that's not viral by any means on the internet, but given the subject matter, we're encouraged that that's a considerable amount of views. It's called views. And these were majorly coming from 3 countries: the United States, India, and Mexico. The United States, India, and Mexico were more than 50% of the views. And the rest of the world, everywhere from Czech Republic to Peru, or Japan and China, the rest of the world made up somewhere in 40-something%. But the United States, India, and Mexico over 50% of our views. So that was very interesting to observe that. And there was an interesting thing about age groups. They know how old you are, too. Not only what country you're from, what gender you are, they know how old you are. And we were surprised to see that between the age of 24 and 44 was 75% of our views. Mm. What is that? That's significantly the second generation Western Hare Krishnas. That's a second generation people. And the least viewed percent was the Prabhupada disciple generation. Those of us who are Srila Prabhupada's disciples of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the majority of us are over 60, and you may even say 65 years of age, but certainly 60 years of age. Mm. So that consisted of only 3% of our views. But the younger generation, that was well over 75% of our views was coming from the younger generation, and only 3% from the 65 and above generation, the Prabhupada disciple generation. So what is the analysis of the analysis? Is that young people are searching for answers. And not only do we have the numbers, but in many cases we're able to see who they are by name. Mm-hmm. And it's almost a 50-50, people with uninitiated names, following and interested in Krishna consciousness, and people with initiated names like Das or Dasi. Mm-hmm. And among those initiated names, it was very rare for me to pick out the name of a god brother or a god sister. And of course, at only 3% and 30,000 views, well, that's a small number. That's a very small number. So these were both encouraging and I wouldn't say shocking, but they were kind of like, oh, wow.
Interesting.
Interesting, right? But now the last statistic from the analytics we found as being, that wowed me. And that is 94.6% of the people who watch the Let's Talk videos on YouTube are male. And only 5.4% are female. Mm-hmm. 94.6% are men, 5.4% are women.
Yeah.
So that is also true to something we heard earlier. One does not have to be a great philosopher to be Krishna conscious. So we discuss a lot about philosophy, the philosophy of Guru Tattva, the philosophy of Jiva Tattva, the different philosophies. Of course, sometimes we do some other things just to break it up. But we are most concerned here with philosophy. And because it is mostly about philosophy and controversy, and it's a historical fact that as a class of human beings, women do not like controversy, and they are not as interested in philosophy as men are. Mm-hmm. Another historical fact is, I'll just ask any of our viewers, please email me any book and any name of any ancient philosopher like Hegel, Plato, you name them, Greek, European, Indian. Please send me the name and the book of a ancient philosopher, either from Asia or from the West, and I'll save you the trouble. There are none. There are none. If you want to send me the names of how many women teach philosophy in universities, etc., please spare me. Hundreds. There are hundreds and thousands of women who understand philosophy. Some of them teach philosophy, but there's a difference in being a philosopher. For example, I'm not a philosopher. You see, Mahaprabhu was a philosopher. He taught Achintya Beta Beta Tattva. It is different than all other theistic and non-theistic philosophies existing in India and the world. It is unique. And it is the crowning jewel of philosophy. And then under him there were philosophers, you see, who expounded on the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Tattva, and particularly in the categories of Sambandha and Raganuga.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to learn a philosophy and just share it with others, that doesn't mean you're a philosopher, you see.
Right.
So in the history of the world, there are no women philosophers. And our analytics also show that, yeah, women do not take much interest in this channel. I have some god sisters I know, and I have met other Vaishnavis who had a keen interest on philosophy, but overall, no, they don't have that interest. That is not a disqualification. It's just like, how many women know how to operate a chainsaw? Well, probably, yeah, there are a few, but there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and more men. They have these businesses here in New England. They're tree trimming businesses. And I have yet to see a woman up a tree with a chainsaw and spikes on her boot trimming a tree. You see? Some automated things like driving a tractor or bulldozer, yes, but there are differences. And one of the differences, men have a deeper or more of an interest in philosophy and controversy than women do. And so we have 94.6 men and only 5.4 women. All right, so that was just some of the statistics I wanted to throw in here at this point. Let's get back on track. Gary, let's jump over to the sannyas thing. Now we've done a few things that, yes, let me summarize that up. Women can be gurus. Two things are to be considered: qualification and necessity. And that same thing should apply to anyone, male or female, qualification and necessity. All right, so moving on to the issue of sannyas, which I don't think is a burning issue in like ISKCON, though it is an issue in some of the other groups. There is a little bit of talk about sannyas being given to women. So we have a few quotes on that. Yeah. And to summarize that before we even get into it, no. Sannyas is a male institution. It is not a feminine institution. So, Gary, you have some quotes from our acharyas?
There's a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, which was in the 16th volume of the Gaudiya magazine.
Can you speak up a little bit?
This quote from Bhaktisiddhanta is from the Gaudiya magazine from the 1930s.
Okay.
So he says, the sannyas ashram is not auspicious for the ladies section. It is much more auspicious for them to stay at home and perform Hari Bhajan. In the name of giving sannyas and saffron cloth to women, many troubles have been created. Special examples are not meant to be role models to be imitated by ordinary people. For those that wish to know the details concerning the acceptance of sannyas, Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami Prabhu's book, Samskar Deepika, is a worthy reference.
So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is saying that not only just sannyas is not meant for women, and it is not advantageous for them to try to embark on the path of the sannyas ashram. But it is also, he looks down upon giving the saffron red dress to women. So that recently did happen. One of my friends from the Gaudiya-sampradaya in the 90s gave gave the red cloth to several women, particularly one that I'm thinking of. And he wrote a letter explaining that she has not been given sannyas. Sannyas means you have to receive a mantra. And this is a very special mantra. We'll get into that some other time. We've touched upon it in the past. But not giving the mantra, that means they were not given sannyas. But this lady was given what's called the saffron dress. So I mentioned this to a friend of mine yesterday in Vrindavan. We were messaging back and forth, and he said that yes, and it was explained that this saffron dress was to give protection to this woman, this lady, this Vaishnavi, that she is off limits from the prowling eyes of the men. Again, the men, the problem.
Right.
However, my friend in Vrindavan pointed out that Srila Prabhupada gave the white dress. If a Mataji wanted to be exclusive away from being seen as a candidate for marriage or anything like this, then she could put on the white dress.
Right.
And he said that this giving of the saffron dress was not required, and he objected to that. So I clearly see that. But again, you have in a cultural context over here, the white dress doesn't mean off limits, so to speak, because all the men wear white. The Grihastha men wear white. So if a woman's wearing white, then it got tagged as the widow dress.
Yeah.
That only a widow should wear white. And so it is what it is. Some people have done that, but it's very, very small number. But it's clear that even those who have been given this orange dress, saffron dress, they're not being given sannyas. However, in New Vrindavan back in the, was it 80s or 90s?
90s.
90s. The guru at New Vrindavan gave sannyas to a number of women. Of course, they got way off track there. Way off track. And gave so-called sannyas, really sannyas, making them sannyasinis. But as far as I know, that didn't work out too well. You see. So it's very clear. Vaishnavis are not to be given sannyas. Sannyas is an ashram for men. So the question, I always make the joke. So when if a woman takes sannyas, so which ashram should she stay in? Because sannyasis are not supposed to associate with women. So, where will she throw her sleeping bag? You see, in the women's ashram or the men's ashram? This will simply create havoc. So that doesn't seem to be the big issue either in ISKCON or anywhere right now about women's sannyas, but it does come up. Therefore, we're mentioning it briefly. Okay, so you have some other report on...
Yeah, there's a letter from Srila Prabhupada to Brahmananda. Pretty strong letter. He says, a female is never awarded the order of sannyasam because a female is never considered independent, and sannyasam was never awarded to any female in the past by the great acharyas like Shankara, Ramanuja, etc. The female sannyasins are to be immediately understood as pretenders or prostitutes. In India, they have organized so many organizations where especially young females are maintained to attract rich women hunters who pretend to pose as righteous in the society. This is the age of Kali, which plunders away spiritual sense of the human being, and it is only the divine grace of Lord Chaitanya who can protect us from all these dangerous pitfalls.
1967. So, I have heard this. I have a friend who lives in New Vrindavan, and we chit-chat a lot, and he says a lot of these, if you state that without stating the letter from Srila Prabhupada, just you state that yourself, some Swami or you're a householder, but you state this, you will get this blowback that says, oh, you're old school, Prabhu. That's old school.
Right.
And then you tell them, actually, that was a quote from Srila Prabhupada. Then you get the big well. And anything can follow that. Then you get the and basically you get this minimization of the absolute authority of Srila Prabhupada. So in that movement, at one point, they're ready to nail you to the cross like Jesus Christ for some infraction if they can get a Prabhupada quote that says you shouldn't do that. But then you can give them another Prabhupada quote about, be it sannyas or women gurus or whatever, and then they'll give you the and they'll give you this watered down nonsense opinion of their own, which is being influenced by the external world it is not being referenced. Or they will go, well, there was Genevieve Devi, she was blah, blah, blah. Or they'll try to mention some yogini somewhere from the Himalayas and just convolute the whole conversation. It's like what I think they require, and it had never happened. Some of these issues should be taken into a court of law where there are lawyers and a judge, because there's just so much of shifting the ground, smoke screening, bringing in evidence which is not applicable to the case. Understand, like in a case, somebody says, Rihanna, I have this evidence, and the court goes, sorry, that is unadmissible, and the court is irrelevant to the case, and then it's decided upon. But there is no balanced judge. There's only two parties arguing over something. And the way they're able to argue about it, they never come to the right conclusion.
I also noticed that when they, like in particular the women guru issue, they've made their minds up already. There's no impartiality. And then they're just going to certain sections hoping to get something which bolsters their opinion. That's you're supposed to be impartial and then get the information, and from the information draw a conclusion.
Yeah, they just go looking for the answers they want.
Exactly.
And they ignore the ones they don't want. That applies to everything that's going on in the bigger society. In any society, whether it's big or small, as soon as you have an institutional consideration to guide your society, it's institutional, you are embarking down the wrong path. The society exists for Krishna consciousness. It doesn't exist for itself. It exists for Krishna. And all decisions are supposed to be based on Krishna consciousness.
Right.
Not on society consciousness.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's pretty clear.
That's not so much of a big issue.
And yes, but it's pretty clear that sannyasa is a men's ashram.
Yep.
And the other one is, I heard about this years ago. I just thought we'd mention it, and I heard it was called "Call Me Prabhu." Now we pointed out that, as far as we can see, there aren't any women, even Mother, what's her name, Urmila. Urmila is herself not campaigning that she wants to be guru, though she has a following, and I think they even her followers do some sort of a guru puja for her every year. I'm not so sure on that, but it didn't seem like she was writing big papers and clamoring to be guru. But it seemed that we did find out that there were a number of women raising the cry, don't call me Mata, don't call me Mataji, call me Prabhu.
I saw this with my own eyes in Mayapur back in the 90s.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. Call me Prabhu.
Yeah.
Well, let me say right from the beginning, I call almost all the devotees, I'll call the sannyasis Maharaj. I even slip up every once in a while and call them Prabhu. But I have no qualms about calling a Vaishnavi Prabhu or a Brahmachari or some. I was, in our community, I was a sannyasi before a lot of our members were even born. And I'll sometimes say that, hey, Prabhu, listen, we got to do this or we got to do that. I'll say that, Prabhu, you see. And I was a sannyasi before they were born. So I don't have any problem with that. But I do see that it's a problem when any Vaishnava says, call me master.
Yeah. Because
Prabhu means master. And to want to be a wannabe Prabhuji or a wannabe guru is an immediate disqualification for either.
Yeah.
So, having said that, let's read what your references. You have a few things.
Yeah, there's many references in Prabhupada about calling other devotees Prabhu. I'm obviously not going to read all of them because there's way too many. But the last one on my list is to Nandarani, a lady. He says, I have asked you all to address your godbrothers as Prabhu. This Prabhu means boss. If any one of us thinks of his fellow worker as boss, there is no question of misunderstanding. The mistake is that, being addressed as boss or Prabhu, one thinks himself as exactly Prabhu or the boss. One should not forget himself as a humble servant, even though one is addressed as Prabhu.
So if one is not satisfied with whatever is being called, then the one, in fact, if someone calls you Prabhu, you might say, please, call me Das, call me Dasi. I am your servant. I am your obedient servant. I am your servant. I am your servant. That is a key to successful, harmonious social relationships in Vaishnavism, and particularly in Gaudiya Vaishnavism.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't ask you to look up where, I don't know where this Mataji, but did Srila Prabhupada make a comment about that? I'm sure he did.
Many comments, actually.
About the term Mataji. Can you just read us one of those? Do you have even one available?
It says here that the common moral teachings and the Vedic civilization is to accept any woman except his own wife as mother. Matratat paradareshu. Everyone is supposed to be married. Dara means wife. Paradareshu means another's wife. It doesn't matter if she is younger or older, but she should be treated as mother. Therefore, it is the system in Vedic culture. As soon as one sees another woman, he addresses her mother, Mataji. Immediately mother. That makes the relationship. The woman treats the unknown man as son, and the unknown man treats the unknown woman as mother. This is Vedic civilization. So we should be very careful. In our society, you are all god brothers, god sisters. Or those who are married, they are like mothers. So very clear.
Yes, and I want to point out that Prabhupada's mother, of course, that was a very, very different time, and that's not going to happen now, but Prabhupada's mother never walked on the street. I mean, I'm sure she did at some point, but when she went any distance, she was carried in a palanquin.
Mm-hmm.
She was picked up like in a man-hauled taxi, sat down with a curtain, and carried to where she was going. Respectable women didn't walk on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's that was in a time definitely gone by, but that had gone by the time Srila Prabhupada arrived in the United States, where that used to be kind of like that. Women just didn't walk on the street alone.
Right.
They walked on the street accompanied by a guardian of some sort. Mm-hmm. It could be their husband. It could be an older brother. It could be their father. But they were always with a guardian. They didn't just stroll the streets alone. But by the 1960s, that was the standard. There was no, in the West even, there was no guardianship being offered to young girls or anything like that. So, but Krishna consciousness in our Guru Maharaj's mission, in Prabhupada's mission, it was to be based on Vedic culture. And the culture is that the women are addressed as Mata or Mataji. Ji is adding the words, "O most honorable and respectful mother." Mm-hmm. Mata is just kind of like Ma.
Yeah.
And Mataji is with all great respect. So that you call both the title of addressing someone as Prabhu, this is protecting you. They are your master, you are the servant. So if you address a mother, a devotee as Prabhu, there's no harm in that, you see. Or if you address women, younger or older, as Mata or Mataji, that is the culture. There is no harm in that. But where the harm is that you want to be called Prabhu, that you want to receive honorific titles from others. This is the problem. This is not Krishna consciousness. What is guiding that is Maya consciousness, ego consciousness, dissatisfaction, lack of fulfillment. These are symptoms. This is like the pulse on the institution. This is the pulse on the society.
Mm-hmm. And now it's a common thing now. I think even Prabhupada mentions it in one place, or two places actually, about how people don't call. In India, he said that they've stopped calling each other Mataji, the ladies. They call them Bhagini, Behenji, Didi, sister. You know, that now that's in vogue. Because
there's even some of the Western Vaishnava groups outside of ISKCON. There's one or two that refer to the ladies as Didi, sister. This can be a problem. DD, sister. Well, even physically in the world, sometimes sister, brother. This is a problem. They usually have their own rooms and their own spaces. The problem between a son and his mother is a lot less frequent. It's just a human nature. However lusty the man and lusty the woman, they usually find some other outlet than the mother with the son and the son with the mother. That has occurred, but that is very, very low. What was that? Wasn't there one of those Caesars back in Rome that?
Oh, it was a Greek tragedy called the Oedipus Rex. Oedipus, yeah. He ended up marrying his mother. He didn't know it was his mother, that they'd been separated from birth, and then finally they come back together, and they have no idea who each other is, and they end up getting married, and then finally they find out their son and mother.
Yeah.
Some sick Greek tragedy.
Yeah, so that's a tragedy, you see.
Yeah.
But sister?
Oh, Egypt. Pharaohs married their sisters.
Yeah, so that's
the
not...
bloodline was important.
That's another tragedy, but it's more common.
Yeah.
But mother? No, that's very, very rare, and all cultures have looked and frowned down upon that. So to address to address one as mother, that is also a form of protection against the unspeakable.
Yeah.
So there's no need to clamor. You don't find in any Vaishnava prayers, oh please, I need to be identified as master. Oh, when will the day become when the world will see me as a great master? You know, when will I be recognized for my achievements? This is a Vaishnava. This is not of a Vaishnava. This is anti-Vaishnava.
Yeah.
And sannyas for women, I'm rewinding the film now. Sannyas for women, no, it is strictly a man's thing. It's a thing only for men. And women gurus, well, as soon as you say women gurus, you have no guru, because sexuality is not a prefix to the guru tattva. It is not a qualification. It is not a disqualification, but you are discussing it from an angle of vision in which you will never reach the right conclusion.
Maybe you'd like to mention something about the article that we posted yesterday, on Krishna Devi.
Oh, yes. So, current role models for the Vaishnavas, we have our acharyas, we have in our living times our Srila Prabhupada, we have Srila Sridhara Maharaj, we have Srila Puri Maharaj, and we have many of their disciples and representatives who are very stalwart and examples. From the lady section, well, there's a very small handful, both in India and in the West, who are, well, if you look at it from the standpoint of mother, there's some incredible matas out there who raise their children in Krishna consciousness, and it's like hats off, pranams. They did a wonderful job. But overall, there are a handful of women who are inspirational, say, to the greater community of devotees around the world. So we just want to mention the name of Krishna Mai. Krishna Mai was a disciple of Srila Sridhara Maharaj. She's no longer present. She passed away a few years ago. But she was such an exemplary Vaishnavi that her guru, as well as other sannyasis in the Gaudiya Mutt, wrote mantras, pranam mantras, in Sanskrit and Bengali, praising her qualities of devotion and her purity. But she was never guru. But yet she was a Vaishnavi of the highest standard, and recognized so by her own guru, who wrote mantras. So Mother Dear Lalita in our mission wrote an article some years ago about Krishna Mai. So we're going to give you the link down below. If any of you would like to read that. I believe there's a website or two devoted to Krishna Mai. And here is a very shining example of a Vaishnavi in the 20th century, and she lived in the first decade of the 21st century. And this Vaishnavi is a shining example for aspiring Vaishnavis to look towards, both at the present and the future. All right, so I think we've just spent enough time on this topic. We're going to get back into it. We had a 3-week break there. We were working.
Made up for it.
Huh?
We made up for it.
What?
We made up for it. This is a 2-hour discussion.
Oh my gosh! All right, so we're going to get a lot of thumbs down for that too. Things are too long. Anyway, thank you very much, Giri, for tuning in with me this morning, and to our listeners, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Until next time. Until then. Hare Krishna.